The Frozen Moon's Secret. The mission began with an air of cautious optimism, but Captain Lizra had learned long ago that missions with this much potential were rarely simple. The frozen moon below, ancient and desolate, glimmered faintly against the backdrop of stars. Its surface was scarred by millennia of meteor impacts and erosion, yet it housed what could be the crew's greatest discovery, or their undoing. Zate, the ship's AI, hummed with activity. Its mechanical arms flickered across holographic consoles, scanning and analyzing the data from the moon below. Readings indicate the facility is still operational, Zate said, its tone precise yet skeptical. That should not be possible. Lizra's sharp ears perked up, her striped white and red tail swaying in thought. Operational. After 1,000 years. That's unexpected. She stood on the central pedestal of the scavenger ship, her Ayan frame small but commanding. Her feline features glinted faintly in the ambient glow of the ship's consoles. Outside the window, the desolate moon loomed closer as the ship's descent thrusters activated. Operational means someone, or something, is maintaining it. Lizra mused, her golden eyes narrowing. Zate, are there any life forms detected? None that appear on the scanner, Captain, Zate replied. However, the materials used to construct this facility seem to interfere with standard readings. There may be more below the surface. Argel, the endurant heavy lifter of the crew, let out a low growl. His massive purple form barely fit into the tight confines of the control room. If there's nothing alive down there, this better not be another wild goose chase. I've carried enough useless junk this trip to rebuild a fleet, he grumbled, crossing his massive arms. If we don't find something useful, I might send a strongly worded message to the mission commander. Strongly worded. Lizra smirked, her sharp teeth flashing. You mean your fist to his face. Argel cracked his knuckles. It's a language everyone understands. Lizra chuckled, shaking her head. Calm yourself, Argel. All our work will pay off soon enough. Zate, bring us down. Let's see what secrets this ancient base is hiding. As the ship descended, the atmosphere inside was tense. The moon's surface grew larger in the viewport, its rugged terrain a testament to its ancient history. They landed on what remained of a crumbling landing pad, the ship's thrusters kicking up clouds of dust and frost. Lizra and Argel donned their environmental suits, sleek and reinforced for the cold, unbreathable atmosphere outside. Zate's mechanical arms clicked as it prepared to join them, its processing core housed within a sleek cylindrical frame designed for fieldwork. The trio stepped out onto the barren surface, their boots crunching against the frozen ground. The wind howled around them, carrying an otherworldly chill. Before them stood the facility, an angular structure half buried in ice. Its metal walls were pitted and scarred, but it loomed defiantly against the moon's hostile environment. This place gives me the creeps, Argel muttered, his deep voice rumbling through Lizra's comlink. Why would anyone build a base out here? Isolation, Lizra replied. Whatever's inside, they wanted it far from prying eyes. They reached the main door, a massive slab of metal that seemed almost welded shut by time itself. Zate extended a set of tools from its frame, connecting to the ancient panel beside the door. Its lights flickered as it worked to bypass the outdated security systems. After a minute, Zate's voice came through the comms. Captain, this is strange. The facility's systems have been completely rewritten. The coding language is unrecognizable. It's as if someone reinvented the entire operating system from scratch. Lizra frowned. Rewritten? That shouldn't be possible. This place has been abandoned for centuries. Yet here we are, Zate replied. I'll need more time, Toe. More time. Forget that. Argel interrupted, raising one massive fist. Let me handle it. Before Lizra could stop him, Argel's punch landed squarely on the door, leaving a deep dent in the metal. The sound echoed across the barren landscape. Argel. Lizra snapped, her fur bristling beneath her suit. These ancient outposts are fragile. You could. A sudden hiss cut her off as the door began to slide open. The team froze. Zait's lights blinked in surprise. "Captain, I must clarify. This was not my doing." "Great," Lizra muttered. "So punching was the key then." "Good initiative, Argyll," she added dryly. The door opened fully, revealing a dark corridor lined with frost-covered walls. The silence was unnerving, broken only by the faint hum of dormant machinery stirring to life. Lizra adjusted her helmet and motioned for the team to proceed. "Let's not keep our mysterious host waiting." Inside, the air was cold and still, illuminated by flickering fluorescent lights that hadn't glowed in centuries. The corridor stretched ahead, littered with the long-expired remains of the facility's former occupants. Frozen corpses were slumped against the walls, their faces preserved in haunting expressions of fear. "This is a tomb," Lizra whispered, her voice barely audible over the comms. "Captain," Zait interjected, "compressed air is being pumped into the facility. The systems are rebooting themselves." Lizra's ears twitched. "Rebooting themselves? But you said—" "I said I couldn't access them," Zait corrected. "This is not my doing." The team pressed on, their footsteps echoing ominously. They followed blinking lights that guided them through the labyrinthine halls. At last, they reached a heavy door at the end of the corridor, its edges glowing faintly. "Whatever's running this place wants us to go inside," Lizra said, her voice tinged with unease. "Stay alert." The door slid open, revealing a vast chamber filled with ancient computer equipment. Hundreds of wires and tubes snaked across the floor, converging on a sleek black box at the center of the room. Lizra approached cautiously, her tail flicking nervously. As she drew closer, a voice crackled to life through the speakers embedded in the walls. "Welcome, visitors. My name is Tic-Tac. It's been so long since I've had company." Lizra froze, her heart pounding. She glanced at Zait, who blinked its lights in confusion. "Who, or what, are you?" "I am the caretaker of this facility," the voice replied cheerfully. "And perhaps I may also be the answer you seek." The chamber seemed to hum with anticipation. Lizra's mind raced with questions, but one thing was clear: whatever they had stumbled upon was far more than they had bargained for. The living computer. The chamber pulsed with faint lights as the mysterious voice of Tic-Tac continued. Its tone was oddly cheerful, contrasting starkly with the eerie setting. Lizra exchanged glances with Argyll, whose massive frame seemed tense, ready for a fight. Zait's lights blinked rapidly, indicating its processors were running overtime to analyze this unexpected development. "Captain," Zait said, its voice tinged with curiosity, "this entity is unlike anything in my database. Its design and functionality are advanced, even by current galactic standards." Lizra stepped forward cautiously, her tail swaying in thought. "Tic-Tac, if you're the caretaker of this facility, can you explain what this place is? And why does it still function after all this time?" "Oh, I'd be delighted to," Tic-Tac responded, its voice crackling slightly through the ancient speakers. "This facility was constructed as a research and containment site for something very special. As for why it's still functional, let's just say I've had plenty of time to make some upgrades." "Upgrades?" Lizra repeated, her ears twitching. "You mean someone's been maintaining this place?" "Yes and no," Tic-Tac replied cryptically. "I've done what I could with the resources available, but my capabilities are limited without physical assistance. That's where you come in." Argyll let out a low growl. "We didn't come here to fix up some ancient base. We're looking for a weapon, something to turn the tide of war." There was a pause before Tic-Tac responded. "Ah, yes, the weapon. I suppose you could call it that. But it's not just any weapon. It's a being. One unlike anything you've encountered before." Lizra felt her heart skip a beat. A being? She glanced at the black box in the center of the room, its surface sleek and unmarked. "Are you saying the weapon is alive?" "Alive, in a manner of speaking," Tic-Tac replied. My companion has been in stasis for a very long time. If you wish to meet them, you'll need to help me wake them." Zate moved closer to the black box, extending its mechanical arms to examine the surrounding equipment. "Tic-Tac, if you have control over this facility, why do you need our help to activate the stasis chamber?" "Ah, excellent question, Zate," Tic-Tac said, its voice bright. "While I control most of the facility, I lack the physical means to manually disengage the cryostasis chamber. It's a design flaw, you see. Those who built this place assumed they'd always be around to handle such tasks. Silly, isn't it?" "Convenient," Argyll muttered under his breath, his fists clenched. Lizra ignored him, her eyes narrowing as she studied the chamber. "And why should we trust you, Tic-Tac? For all we know, your so-called companion could be dangerous." "Oh, they're absolutely dangerous," Tic-Tac said with a chuckle. "But only to those who threaten them, or me, for that matter. You, on the other hand, seem quite charming." Argyll snorted. "I don't like this. It feels like we're walking into a trap." Lizra glanced at him, her expression serious. "If this being is what we're looking for, it's worth the risk. We didn't come all this way to turn back now." Following Tic-Tac's instructions, the team moved to the far side of the chamber, where a large cryostasis pod was embedded into the wall. Its surface was frosted over, obscuring whatever lay inside. Argyll placed his massive hands on the clamps holding the pod shut, his muscles straining as he pried them loose. As the final clamp disengaged, the pod hissed loudly, releasing a burst of cold vapor. The glass panel slid open, revealing a figure inside. It was unlike anything they had expected. The being was tall and powerfully built, its body encased in black armor that shimmered faintly under the flickering lights. Strange symbols and markings adorned its chest plate, their meanings lost to time. Beneath the armor, a tight, flexible suit covered the being's form, offering no hint of what lay beneath. Its helmet, sleek and angular, featured a glowing orange visor that pulsed faintly. The being's head tilted slightly as it stepped out of the pod, its movements fluid yet deliberate. It stood nearly as tall as Argyll, its presence radiating an aura of controlled power. Lizra instinctively took a step back, her tail bristling. "Is this the weapon?" The beam turned its head towards her, the orange visor locking onto her with an unsettling precision. A deep, modulated voice emerged from within the helmet. "Weapon? Is that what they call me now?" The room fell silent. Argyll's fists clenched as he sized up the figure, his instincts telling him to prepare for a fight. Zate's lights blinked furiously, processing the unexpected development. Tic-Tac's voice cut through the tension. "Welcome back, my friend. It's been far too long." The figure, human, as Tic-Tac later called him, turned towards the black box. "Tic-Tac, you've been busy. Someone had to keep the lights on," Tic-Tac replied. "I hope you're well rested because it seems our guests have a favor to ask." Human's visor turned back to Lizra, and despite the opaque shield, she could feel the weight of his gaze. "You've come looking for a weapon," he said slowly. "You might not like what you found." Lizra swallowed hard, her voice steady despite the tension. "We're fighting for survival. If you're what we need to win, we're willing to take the risk." Human tilted his head slightly, as if considering her words. "Risk? You have no idea what you're dealing with." Before Lizra could respond, alarms blared through the facility. Tic-Tac's voice crackled urgently. "I hate to interrupt, but it seems we've got company. A core Prowler-class ship just dropped out of slip space nearby. They'll be here any minute." Argyll's fists slammed together. Finally, some action. Lizra's ears flattened against her head as the room erupted into motion. "Zate, prepare the ship for launch. Tic-Tac, can you delay the core troops?" "Already working on it," Tic-Tac replied. "But you'll need to move quickly. This facility isn't exactly built for firefights." Human stepped forward, his armored form imposing. "If they're coming for me, they're not going to like what they find." For the first time, Lizra felt a flicker of hope. Whatever human was, he might just be the weapon they needed. But as the alarms grew louder, she couldn't shake the feeling that their troubles were only beginning. The awakening of the human. The blaring alarms reverberated through the ancient facility as the team scrambled into action. Zait's voice crackled through the comms, its tone clipped and precise. "Captain, the Prowler-class core ship is moving into orbit above us. Scans indicate a full squadron of troops on board. Their weapons systems are hot." "Hot," Lizra muttered under her breath. "Fantastic. Tic-tac. Can you lock down the facility?" "Of course, my dear Captain," Tic-tac chirped. "But they're bound to notice. These core folks are annoyingly persistent." Human, the towering figure now fully awake and watching them from behind his glowing orange visor, stepped forward. His movements were unnervingly fluid, like a predator sizing up its prey. "They're here for me," he said in a voice that was deep and resonant. "They won't stop until they have what they came for." Argyll growled low in his throat, his massive form bristling with anticipation. "Good. Let them come. I've been itching for a fight." Lizra shot him a sharp look. "Calm down, Argyll. This isn't about brute force. We need to outthink them." Human's visor tilted slightly as he observed the exchange. "You're both wrong. If they tracked me here, they already have the upper hand. Your only advantage is me." Lizra stiffened, her tail flicking behind her. "And why exactly should we trust you? For all we know, you could be more dangerous than they are." Human didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned his head toward Tic-Tac's black box, which hummed quietly. "Tic-Tac, you've explained why they're here." Yes, Tic-Tac replied, almost impatiently. "They're part of some rebellion against the core. Something about turning the tide of war, saving their species, blah blah. You know the drill." Human's head swiveled back to Lizra. "If I help you, it's not because I believe in your cause. It's because I have no interest in being their prisoner again." "Again?" Lizra asked, her ears perking up. "What do you mean?" "Later," Human said curtly. "For now, focus on survival." As if on cue, the facility shuddered violently. The lights flickered, and a distant explosion echoed through the halls. Zait's voice chimed in. "Captain, core forces have breached the outer perimeter. They're deploying heavy units." Argyll cracked his knuckles, a grin spreading across his face. "Finally, let's see how tough these core soldiers really are." "Argyll, hold your position," Lizra snapped. "Tic-Tac, is there a way out of here?" "Oh, plenty," Tic-Tac replied, his voice unnervingly chipper. "But getting to one without being vaporized might be tricky." Human stepped forward, his imposing frame casting long shadows across the room. "Where's the nearest exit?" Tic-Tac hesitated for a moment before responding. "There's a secondary loading bay on the east side. It's closer to your ship, but it's currently sealed. I can open it, but it'll take time." "We don't have time," Lizra said, her voice sharp. "Zait, can you move the ship closer to the secondary bay?" "I'm already en route, Captain," Zait replied. "But I must caution you. The core ship is likely to intercept." "Then we'll need a distraction," Human said. His voice was calm, almost unnervingly so. "I'll handle it." Lizra blinked, her ears flattening against her head. "You'll handle it? What does that mean?" Human didn't answer. Instead, he turned and began striding toward the corridor. Argyll moved to follow, but Lizra grabbed his arm, her claws digging into his suit. "Stay here," she ordered. "We don't know what he's planning." "Captain," Zait interjected, "the core forces have breached the inner corridors. They're heading toward your position." Human moved through the facility with a purpose, his armor gleaming under the flickering lights. As he approached the outermost corridor, the first wave of core troops came into view. They were heavily armored, their weapons glowing with plasma energy. Without hesitation, Human surged forward. His movements were a blur, faster than anything Lizra had ever seen. He closed the distance in seconds, his armored fists smashing into the nearest soldier with a force that sent them crashing into the wall. The remaining troops opened fire, but humans' reflexes were impossibly fast. He weaved through the barrage, dismantling the squad with brutal efficiency. Back in the main chamber, Lizra watched the scene unfold on Zait's monitor. Her eyes widened in shock. Is he fighting them barehanded? Tic-Tac's voice chimed in. Oh, don't worry. He's quite good at this sort of thing. It's what he was built for. Built for. Lizra echoed, her voice tinged with disbelief. Argyll let out a low whistle. I like him already. As the core forces regrouped, Human retreated deeper into the facility, leading them away from the scavenger crew. His voice crackled through the comms. The path to the loading bay is clear. Go. Lizra hesitated, her instincts screaming at her to question his motives. But time was running out. Zait, guide us to the loading bay, she ordered. Tic-Tac, keep the core forces occupied as long as you can. Already on it, Tic-Tac replied. Good luck, everyone. The team moved quickly, following the blinking lights that lined the corridor. Argyll took point, his massive form shielding Lizra and Zait as they navigated the twisting passageways. The sound of distant gunfire echoed through the facility, a stark reminder of the chaos they were leaving behind. When they reached the loading bay, Zait interfaced with the door controls, its mechanical arms working rapidly. Captain, the ship is in position. Opening the bay now. The door hissed open, revealing the scavenger ship hovering just outside. Lizra's heart raced as she stepped onto the platform. Argyll, cover our retreat. You don't have to tell me twice, Argyll growled, positioning himself at the entrance. As the team boarded the ship, Lizra glanced back toward the corridor. For a brief moment, she hesitated, her mind racing with questions. What was Human? And why did he seem so familiar with the Corps' tactics? Zait's voice broke through her thoughts. Captain, we need to launch immediately. The Corps ship is closing in. Do it, Lizra said, her voice steady. Take us out of here. As the ship's engines roared to life, Lizra couldn't shake the feeling that their encounter with Human was only the beginning of something far greater and far more dangerous. The battle for survival. The scavenger ship roared away from the frozen moon, its engines burning bright as Zait navigated a chaotic escape route. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Lizra leaned against the console, her tail flicking nervously. Argyll stood by her side, his massive arms crossed, while Zait's mechanical arms danced over the control panel. Captain, the core ship is locking onto our trajectory, Zait announced. Weapons systems are active. Lizra's ears flattened against her head. Can we outrun them? Unlikely. Their propulsion systems are significantly more advanced than ours. Engaging slip space without diversionary tactics would leave us exposed. So we fight, Argyll growled, his fists clenching. Finally, Lizra shook her head. No, we don't have the firepower to go head-to-head with a Prowler-class ship. We need to outthink them. As if in response, Tic-Tac's voice crackled through the ship's speakers. Oh, don't worry, little ones. I've got a plan. Is that supposed to be reassuring? Lizra muttered. Absolutely. Tic-Tac replied cheerfully. While you were busy running for your lives, I was coordinating with our friend Human. He's on the move. On the move. Lizra repeated, her brow furrowing. What does that mean? Look out the viewport, Tic-Tac said, his tone almost playful. Lizra turned to the front viewport just in time to see a dark figure silhouetted against the stars. It was Human, leaping from the surface of the moon with impossible precision. His armored form cut through the void, heading directly toward the core ship. What in the stars is he doing? Lizra asked, her voice a mix of disbelief and awe. Being a distraction, Tic-Tac replied. And a very effective one at that. On board the core Prowler, chaos erupted as Human breached the outer hull. His armored fists punched through metal as if it were paper, tearing a path toward the bridge. Core soldiers scrambled to intercept him, their plasma weapons lighting up the narrow corridors. But Human moved with deadly efficiency, disarming and disabling them before they could react. The Prowler's captain, a towering figure with scarlet armor, barked orders from the bridge. "Seal the bulkheads. Contain him." Human's voice crackled through the core comms, deep and cold. "You should have stayed away." Back on the scavenger ship, Lizra watched the unfolding chaos on the monitor. Zate had tapped into the Prowler's external cameras, providing a grainy feed of Human's rampage. "He's taking out their entire crew," Lizra whispered, her voice laced with disbelief. "And loving every minute of it." Tic-Tac added, "I told you he's dangerous." "Dangerous doesn't even begin to cover it," Argyle said, a grin spreading across his face. "I like him." "We still need to get out of here," Lizra said, snapping back to the present. "Zate, status on our slip space jump." "Ready in 2 minutes, Captain," Zate replied. "However, the Prowler's targeting systems are still locked on us. If they fire before we jump—" "They won't," Tic-Tac interrupted. "Not if Human has anything to say about it." As if on cue, the Prowler's external weapons systems went dark. Lizra's ears perked up. What just happened? "Human disabled their targeting array," Tic-Tac explained. "Efficient, isn't he?" Lizra didn't respond. Her mind was racing. Who, or what, was this being? And why was he so willing to help them? Inside the Prowler, Human reached the bridge, his armored form cutting an imposing figure against the dim red lights. The Corps captain turned to face him, plasma blade in hand. "You're a relic," the captain spat. "A ghost of a forgotten war. What do you hope to accomplish here?" Human didn't respond. Instead, he lunged forward, his movements a blur. The fight was over in seconds, the captain crumpling to the ground. Human stepped over the fallen figure, accessing the ship's main console. "Tic-Tac, I'm done here," he said, his voice calm and steady. "Tell them to make the jump." "Will do, buddy," Tic-Tac replied. "You heard him, Captain Lizra. Time to go." Back on the scavenger ship, Zate's voice chimed in. "Slip space jump initiated. Hold on." The ship shuddered as it entered the swirling void of slip space, leaving the frozen moon and the core Prowler far behind. Lizra exhaled a long breath, her body relaxing for the first time since the mission began. "Zate, status?" she asked. "We're clear of the system," Zate replied. "The core ship is disabled, and their crew is incapacitated. We are no longer being pursued." Argyle let out a triumphant laugh. "We did it." "Well, mostly Human did it, but still." Lizra nodded, her gaze distant. "Speaking of which, where is he?" The sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the ship. Lizra turned to see Human entering the command room, his armor slightly scuffed but otherwise intact. On his back was the black box containing Tic-Tac. "Well," he asked, his voice deep and even, "did we make it?" "We made it," Lizra replied. "Thanks to you." Human didn't respond immediately. Instead, he turned his glowing visor toward the viewport, where the swirling colors of slip space danced like fire. "Don't thank me yet. You're still in this fight." Lizra's tail flicked nervously. "And you? Are you staying?" Human glanced at her, his visor unreadable. "For now. But don't think this means I'm on your side." Lizra smirked faintly. "I'll take what I can get." As the ship continued through slip space, Lizra couldn't help but wonder what they had truly unleashed. Human was more than a weapon. He was a force of nature. And with him on their side, the galaxy might never be the same. Trust tested in the void. The scavenger ship hummed with the steady rhythm of its engines as it drifted through the endless expanse of slipped space. The tension that had gripped the crew during their escape was slowly giving way to a cautious calm. Lizra stood at the central console, her eyes scanning the monitors while her mind replayed the events that had just unfolded. Behind her, Argyll was seated on one of the reinforced benches, inspecting a dent in his environmental suit from their earlier scramble. "That human's a one-man army," he muttered, shaking his head. "I've seen Deathworlders fight before, but nothing like that." Lizra's tail flicked thoughtfully. "He's not just a fighter, Argyll. He's calculated. Every move was deliberate. It's like he was trained for situations like this." "Trained?" Argyll chuckled, his deep voice echoing through the room. "More like forged. That kind of precision isn't learned. It's earned in blood." From the corner, Zait's voice chimed in. "Captain, I've been analyzing the telemetry from humans' actions during the encounter. The efficiency of his combat is consistent with highly advanced biomechanical augmentation. His armor appears to be integrated into his physiology." Lizra turned to the AI, her golden eyes narrowing. "Integrated? You're saying it's part of him?" "In a manner of speaking," Zait replied. "The suit's neural interface suggests a level of synchronization far beyond standard augmentation. It's possible that removing it would be detrimental or even impossible." "Lovely," Lizra muttered. "That just raises more questions." In the cargo bay, Human was standing near the ship's supply lockers, adjusting the black box strapped to his back. Tic-Tac's voice crackled from within, its usual cheerfulness tinged with faint amusement. "Well, buddy, it seems you've made quite the impression on our new friends." Human didn't respond immediately, his armored fingers deftly securing the straps. "They're not my friends." "Oh, come now," Tic-Tac replied, its tone almost teasing. "The little captain seems to like you. And that big one. Argyll, was it? He's practically a fan." Human straightened, his visor turning toward the far wall. "This isn't a team, Tic-Tac. It's a temporary arrangement. Nothing more." Sure, Tic-Tac said lightly. "But don't forget, they're the ones with a ship. And last I checked, you're a bit short on transportation." Human's shoulders tensed slightly. "I don't plan on staying long, just long enough to figure out my next move." In the command room, Lizra's comlink buzzed with an incoming message. "Captain, we've reached the edge of slit space," Zait reported. "Preparing to re-enter normal space." "Good," Lizra replied. "Let's set a course for the nearest port. We need to regroup and figure out our next steps." Zait hesitated. "Captain, if I may, do you intend to keep Human with us?" Lizra frowned, her tail flicking behind her. "Do I have a choice? He saved our lives back there. Besides, he's the weapon we came for, or at least part of it." "Part of it," Argyll repeated, his ears perking up. "You think there's more?" "I don't know," Lizra admitted, "but I have a feeling we've only scratched the surface." The ship shuddered as it exited slit space, the swirling void giving way to the vast darkness of normal space. In the distance, the faint glow of a star system provided a point of reference. Zait's voice echoed through the comms. "Captain, we've successfully transitioned. No sign of pursuit from the core ship." "Good work, Zait," Lizra said, her voice steady. "Plot a course for the nearest port." "As you command," Zait replied. "However, I must inform you, there's an unusual energy signature nearby. It appears to be a derelict vessel." Lizra's ears perked up. "A derelict? What kind?" "Unknown," Zait replied. "The hull composition and design are inconsistent with any known galactic models. It's heavily damaged, but still emitting faint power readings." Argyll grinned. "Sounds like an adventure. Let's check it out." Lizra hesitated. It could be a trap. Or worse, core reinforcements. Or it could be valuable, Argyll countered. "We've got a weapon with us now. If anything goes wrong, we've got backup." Lizra glanced toward the cargo bay on the monitor, where Human stood silently, his imposing form unmoving. After a moment, she sighed. "Fine. Zait, take us closer, but keep our weapons primed and shields up." The scavenger ship approached the derelict vessel cautiously. Its hull was jagged and charred, with sections ripped open as if by massive claws. The ship's markings were faded, but what little remained suggested it predated most known galactic civilizations. As the scavenger ship docked, Lizra, Argel, and Zate prepared to board. Human joined them in the airlock, his presence commanding as he adjusted his weapons. Lizra looked up at him, her tail flicking nervously. "We're going in to investigate. Are you coming?" Human tilted his head slightly, his visor glowing faintly. "If there's trouble, you'll need me." "That's what I'm afraid of," Lizra muttered under her breath. The airlock hissed open, revealing the interior of the derelict. The air was stale, and the dim lighting cast long shadows across the corridors. Lizra led the way, her ears twitching as she listened for any signs of movement. "This place feels wrong," Argel said, his deep voice rumbling through the comms. "Like it's waiting for something." Human's voice came through, calm and steady. "Stay focused. If this ship's still powered, there's something worth finding." As they moved deeper into the vessel, they came across a massive chamber filled with ancient machinery. In the center of the room stood a large console, its surface covered in strange symbols that glowed faintly. Zate moved closer, its mechanical arms extending to examine the console. "Captain, this technology is remarkable. It's unlike anything I've encountered before." "What is it?" Lizra asked, her voice hushed. "I'm not sure," Zate replied. "But it's emitting a faint energy signature. It's possible this ship was a research vessel, or a weapons platform." Human stepped forward, his visor scanning the room. "Be careful. This isn't just a derelict. It's a trap." Before Lizra could respond, the chamber shuddered violently. The lights flickered, and a low mechanical voice echoed through the room. "Unauthorized access detected. Intrusion protocols activated." The team braced themselves as hidden panels slid open, revealing rows of dormant drones that began to stir. Lizra's heart raced as she turned to Human. "You said it was a trap. Can you get us out of this?" Human's visor glowed brighter as he stepped forward, his voice calm but commanding. "Stay behind me. I'll handle this." As the drones began to activate, the scavenger crew prepared for another battle, their fates now intertwined with the enigmatic human who seemed to thrive in the face of danger. The enemy regroups. The ancient chamber vibrated as the drones, sleek and menacing, rose from their dormant states. Their glowing red optics locked onto the intruders. Lizra's fur bristled as she gripped her blaster tightly, her instincts screaming that they were outmatched. "Zate, any way to shut these things down," she called out, her voice sharp with urgency. Zate's mechanical arms whirred as it scanned the central console. "Captain, the system appears to be operating autonomously. I'm unable to interface. These drones are ancient, but their design suggests combat readiness far beyond our current capabilities." Argel stepped forward, his massive frame blocking Lizra from the approaching drones. "Let them come," he growled, cracking his knuckles. "I've been waiting for something to hit." Before the drones could fully activate, Human moved. His speed was inhuman, a blur of black armor and glowing orange visor. In an instant, he was at the forefront, his fist colliding with the nearest drone. The impact shattered the machine's chassis, sending sparks flying. "Stay back," Human barked, his voice echoing through the chamber. "These things are programmed for precision. You'll just get in the way." Argel bristled but obeyed, stepping back toward Lizra. "He's got a real way with words, doesn't he?" Human engaged the drones with ruthless efficiency. Each strike was calculated, his movements fluid and deliberate. One drone launched a plasma burst, but Human sidestepped it with ease, closing the distance and tearing the weapon from the drone's arm before smashing it into another. Lizra watched in awe, her grip on her blaster tightening. How is he doing that? It's like he knows their every move. "Tactical adaptability," Zate said, its voice tinged with fascination. "Humans' reflexes and combat algorithms are beyond anything I've seen. He's not just augmented, he's optimized." As Human dismantled the last of the drones, the chamber fell silent once more. The only sound was the faint hum of the ancient machinery. "Clear," Human said, his voice steady as he turned back to the group. Lizra stepped forward cautiously, her tail flicking. "You're full of surprises, aren't you?" Human didn't reply. Instead, he turned to the console, his visor glowing faintly as he studied the alien symbols. "This ship isn't a derelict. It was left here deliberately." "For what purpose?" Zate asked, moving closer to the console. "To bait someone," Human replied. "Probably the core. But it looks like we tripped the wire instead." Before Lizra could respond, Tic-Tac's voice crackled from Human's back. Captain. Hate to interrupt, but we've got company. Core forces just dropped out of slip space, and they're not happy." Lizra's ears flattened as dread settled in her chest. "How many?" "2 Prowler-class ships and a cruiser," Tic-Tac said. "Let's just say they're bringing the family." "Zate, status on the ship?" Lizra asked, turning toward the exit. "Fully operational, Captain," Zate replied. "But against a fleet of that size." "We're not fighting them," Lizra interrupted. "We're running." The team raced back toward the scavenger ship, the sound of distant explosions echoing through the derelict. Human took point, his towering frame effortlessly clearing obstacles as they moved. Lizra's heart pounded in her chest, the weight of the situation pressing down on her. As they boarded the ship, Zate's voice filled the comms. "Core forces are deploying strike teams toward the derelict. They'll be on us in minutes." "Launch now," Lizra commanded, strapping herself into the command chair. "Get us out of here." The ship's engines roared to life, lifting them away from the derelict as the Core's strike teams descended. Through the viewport, Lizra saw the Prowler-class ships moving into position, their weapon systems glowing ominously. "They're locking onto us," Zate reported. "Captain, we won't last long under direct fire." Human stepped into the command room, his presence commanding. "Keep the ship steady. I'll handle the rest." "And how do you plan to do that?" Lizra asked, her voice sharp. Human didn't answer. Instead, he moved to the cargo bay, where the loading ramp was still partially open. Lizra watched him on the monitor as he secured himself to the bulkhead, a strange device in his hand. "What's he doing?" Argyle asked, leaning over the console. "Something insane, probably," Lizra muttered. As the core ships closed in, Human launched himself into the void. The device in his hand emitted a pulse, propelling him toward the nearest prowler. Lizra's breath caught as she watched him maneuver through space with impossible precision, landing on the prowler's hull. "He's on their ship," Argyle said, his voice tinged with admiration. "That guy's a maniac." "Zate, keep us steady," Lizra ordered, her eyes fixed on the monitor. "We're not leaving without him." Human worked quickly, planting charges along the prowler's weapon systems. Each detonation sent debris spiraling into space, rendering the ship defenseless. As the prowler veered off course, Human leaped toward the second ship, repeating the process with the same brutal efficiency. Inside the scavenger ship, Tic-Tac's voice crackled with excitement. "Oh, he's good. He's really good. You might want to give him a raise." Lizra ignored the eye's commentary, her focus locked on the monitor. "Zate, how long until we can jump to slip space?" 30 seconds, Captain," Zate replied. "But the core cruiser is locking onto our trajectory." Lizra's claws dug into the armrests of her chair. "Human, get back here. We're leaving." On the monitor, she saw him leap away from the second prowler, heading back toward the scavenger ship. Zate adjusted the ship's position, aligning the loading ramp with Human's trajectory. As Human landed inside, the ramp sealed shut behind him. "Go," he said, his voice calm despite the chaos. "Zate, initiate the jump," Lizra commanded. The ship shuddered as it entered slit space, leaving the core fleet behind. The tension in the command room dissipated as the crew let out a collective sigh of relief. Human entered the room, his armor scuffed but intact. Lizra turned to him, her golden eyes narrowing. "You're insane, you know that." "Maybe," Human replied, his tone neutral. "But we're alive." Argyle let out a booming laugh. "I think I like you, human." Lizra smirked faintly. "Well, you're part of the crew now, whether you like it or not." Human didn't respond, but Lizra saw a flicker of something behind his visor. Acceptance, amusement. She couldn't tell. All she knew was that their journey was far from over. And with Human on their side, the galaxy would never be the same. A weapon reclaimed. The scavenger ship hummed steadily as it drifted through the relative safety of slit space. In the aftermath of their harrowing escape, the crew gathered in the main command room. The tension had eased, but unanswered questions lingered in the air like the echo of distant gunfire. Lizra leaned against the central console, her tail swaying as she studied Human. He stood near the viewport, his towering figure framed by the swirling colors of slip space. His glowing visor revealed nothing, but his silence spoke volumes. "Well," Lizra said, breaking the quiet, "you've certainly proven yourself useful, but you're still a mystery. Who are you? What are you?" Human turned his head slightly, the orange glow of his visor reflecting off the polished surface of the console. "I'm what you made me." "What we made you?" Lizra repeated, her ears flattening slightly. "What does that even mean?" Tic-Tac's cheerful voice interrupted from the black box on Human's back. "Oh, it's story time. Do you want the long version or the short one?" "Short," Argyle grunted, crossing his massive arms. "I'm not in the mood for bedtime tales." "Suit yourself," Tic-Tac replied. "Human here. Well, let's call him 909, since that was his designation, is the result of an ancient program. A little something your ancestors cooked up back when humans were still a big deal in the galaxy." "Humans," Zate interjected, its mechanical voice tinged with curiosity. "The species you are based on has been extinct for centuries." "Extinct?" Tic-Tac scoffed. "Not quite. Let's just say humans got tired of being the galaxy's punching bag. So they created beings like 909, living weapons, engineered for war. They were supposed to protect humanity, but, well, things didn't go as planned." Human remained silent, his gaze fixed on the swirling void outside. Lizra studied him, her tail flicking thoughtfully. "And now you're all that's left." "Not all," Human said, his voice low. "But I'm the only one you found." The room fell silent as the weight of Human's words sank in. Argyle broke the tension with a low growl. "So you're a soldier, then? A relic of some ancient war?" "A soldier," Human repeated, his tone unreadable. "A weapon. A mistake." Lizra frowned. "A mistake. You saved us. Twice. If you're what we came here for, then you're exactly what we need." Human turned to face her fully, his visor glowing brighter. "Need me for what? Your rebellion? Your war? I've seen enough of those to know how they end." "We're not like the Corps," Lizra said, her voice firm. "We fight to protect, not to conquer." "That's what they all say," Human replied, his tone cold. "Until the cost becomes too high." Before Lizra could respond, Zate's voice interrupted. "Captain, we're approaching a safe zone. A port lies just beyond the slip space boundary. Shall I prepare to dock?" "Yes," Lizra said, her gaze still fixed on Human. "We'll regroup there." As the ship exited slip space, the port came into view, a sprawling station built into the remains of an asteroid. Its glowing lights cast long shadows across the rocky surface, and ships of various designs drifted in and out like fireflies. Argyle grunted in approval. "Finally, a chance to stretch my legs." "Stay alert," Lizra warned. "We're not out of danger yet." The crew disembarked cautiously, leaving Zate to monitor the ship. The port was a bustling hub of activity, with traders, smugglers, and mercenaries weaving through the crowded corridors. Lizra led the group, her sharp eyes scanning for potential threats. Human drew stares as they walked. His imposing frame and gleaming armor marked him as something out of the ordinary. Lizra noticed the glances but ignored them, focusing on their destination. a quiet corner of the port where an old contact awaited. The contact, a wiry feline with dark fur and piercing green eyes, greeted them with a sly smile. "Lizra, it's been a while." "Not long enough," Lizra replied, crossing her arms. "We need information." "Information." The feline's eyes flicked to human, widening slightly. "And who, or what, is this?" "None of your concern," Lizra said sharply. "What do you know about core movements in this sector?" The feline hesitated, glancing at human again before speaking. "The core's been tightening its grip. Rumor has it they're hunting something. Or someone." Lizra's ears perked up. "What do you mean?" "They're calling it a weapon," the feline said. "Something old. Something dangerous. If they find it, they'll use it to crush the rebellion once and for all." Human's visor tilted slightly, but he remained silent. Lizra narrowed her eyes at the contact. "And where are they looking?" The feline shrugged. "Everywhere. But if you're smart, you'll stay out of their way." As the crew returned to the ship, Lizra felt the weight of their situation pressing down on her. Human was more than just a weapon. He was a target. And as long as he was with them, they were in the core's crosshairs. "We can't keep running," she said aloud as they entered the command room. Argyle frowned. "What are you saying, Captain?" "I'm saying we need a plan," Lizra replied, her golden eyes locking onto Human. "And it starts with him." Human's visor glowed faintly as he tilted his head. "I told you, I'm not your ally." "No," Lizra said, her voice firm. "But you're here. And whether you like it or not, we're in this together." For a moment, Human said nothing. Then, slowly, he nodded. "Fine. But if you want my help, you'll have to prove you're worth it." Lizra smirked faintly. Challenge accepted. As the scavenger ship prepared to leave the port, Lizra couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. With Human on their side, they had a chance to turn the tide. But at what cost? Only time would tell.